Hello, welcome to another video. We're going through my top 5 cards of Reign of Jafar and the projected deck list that I think people will try to play and how I would like to play them and how I test them and how I've seen them being played at the moment. So let's get right into it. We're looking at our first honorable mention. I think Ludwig is a really good card. Um, his cons, though, are his color restriction. If he was just Amber, if he was just Sapphire, he would be a staple, I think, all around the board. But his color restriction does make him a lot more lackluster. He is uninkable, which isn't too bad, but in the colors, there's a lot of uninkable cards that are playing for the spots. Underwhelming stat line of 1-1 and questing for 1 while uninkable. Maybe even 2-1. Being able to trade out with a Cindy or a Robin or anything like that, that would have been a lot better. But 1-1, unfortunately. Pro is that he is a bare necessity and he is a body that quests for 1. So he is a bare necessity, questing body. He can be supported. Something with the list that I'll show next. Secondary effect, he goes into the discard, or he goes into the Inkwell if banished. That's a super good effect, especially in a tempo deck. And yeah, we'll check that out. He's considerably very cheap in the colors that he's in. So with blue, you're typically ramping. Um, and I would see him in something like this. Something a little bit more aggressive on the bottom with the queen to help control the board with these tanky characters. He can be sprinkled in. Cruella to answer the Diablos. Lady to go wider if you need to go more aggressive, or Lady even to drop the Ludwig. Bell, obviously, if you high roll, otherwise you can just ink them, but the Popsicle is mainly for the Tamatoa to find late game draw. If you're going into Steel, where they're not Holy World, you can definitely go for this Tech Cogsworth, the Rapunzel to suck in the damage, the Gaston in the late game once you've inked. Very tanky and high questing bodies. Something that will kind of destroy Steel. I don't think this would do good into Purple Red or Red Blue without tweaking, and I haven't played this deck. But then obviously there's a Sail, there's the Greatest Criminal for the Queen, there's the Let It Go. So the deck operates pretty well, and this could just be bare necessity, but the fact that he's a character to come out with with Lady or just on curve and provides ink in a deck that doesn't have a lot of draw power, it is pretty good. So I could see him being played in something like this. So going into our top 5, though, I do have Minnie Mouse in the top 5. The cons is that there are a lot of very good 4-cost characters in Ruby Am in the 4-cost slot, and if you don't have Lantern or Pluto, the curve is a little slow. But the pros I do think outweigh the cons. She's a huge body, so unless you're running Brawl or Little Sisu, she is not going to die on board, not in the same turn, unless you're devoting 2 resources to her, and it has to be a Strength and a Zeus most of the time, or a even a fox and a crab don't do enough. If you had like 6 ink and she's the only thing on board, like a fox and a crab don't take it. So a huge body. The secondary effect, she gets 1 attack for each damage on her. So if you're gonna attack her with a crab and then you're gonna fox, the fox is gonna die in that trade every single time, right? So she trades out with anything if you're double stacking things, which is incredible. Um, the secondary effect, the cheap cost, relatively, if you are playing like Lantern, Pluto, Dewey, anything like that that reduces cost, she is pretty cheap in the late game, and she is a bodyguard. Rapunzel bait, I mean, she's going to sit there for a very long time. If you tap anything, if you tap a 4 attack, 5 attack, a 6 attack, anything, Rapunzel is going to proc off her. Teeth synergy, if you're just playing her in a regular curve, she's just going to hit Teeth every single time on drop. So, and she's inkable. I think this is an amazing card. I have played against it recently, and it is incredibly difficult to get rid of. Super impressive card, and I think we'll see this a lot more, and I think that's why Ruby Amethyst will be winning a lot of tournaments soon. Because everything is brawlable and seeable, and they just have hand advantage all the time, and evasive threats, so I do think Ruby Amethyst is still up there. I would play her in something like this, a lot more tempo. So Huey obviously to cheat her out on 3. Lady to get out the Vanellope, the Queen to get the draws, right? The Rapunzel, and then I did actually play a variation of this in set 7, and Pulled from the Sea and Double Speedways actually forces the game really, really hard, really fast. So I actually do think that these characters in themselves is enough to keep the board state alive. and then paired with the speedways in the side, I do actually think you can steal games pretty hard. Candy Drift is another card that is actually really good in this, especially with tankier characters and Queen of Hearts and even Minnie. You can give her +5. Obviously, she gets banished, so maybe you wouldn't want to do that. Last resort kind of thing. Even giving it to like Mulan or Nala, having the Queen proc, like you're drawing 2 cards. This combo is super good too. But Minnie really does round this out. It keeps everything alive. Um, it's just super good. I do think that this is pretty good. I called it Roadblock. So if you see any variations of this deck, let me know. Number 4 has to be Antonio Madrigal. He's super slow unless you're on the play, right? Typically he'll be answered, and it is an odd line of play that you have to take in Amber Amethyst to basically always have him, you know, search at least once. I don't know if you'd always want him on turn 4. I think it kind of depends on the deck that you're playing. I think I would prefer to play him on turn 4 and like really abuse him with something like Cinderella and stuff, but he does quest for 2. He is inkable. He searches. There's a lot of good 3 drops in Amber Amethyst that can sing songs, and there's a lot of good songs in Amber Amethyst as well. Um, Rapunzel. I don't know why I wrote Rapunzel. She's not searchable. Inkable and the 2 willpower. Um, 2 willpower is a big con though. He is like stormable and stuff, but he is a super good card. So if they tap to just clear him, and you're playing like a Peter Pan tempo deck, it'd be super good. I do think this guy's gonna be slipped on a little bit. I think somebody will break songs pretty quickly, but Pete does shut this deck down pretty fast. Green Steel would probably have a field day with this with Little Ursula. So he is a little bit bad into some matchups, but he is really good in the good ones. I would play him in something like super tempo heavy. Peter Pan tech at 2. Simba to protect the Sydney, Sydney to sing the Friends, or This Is My Family, the Fantastical Madrigal. Basically what you're searching for is this Ariel, this Fox, these cards that you can just search for and then keep searching for more. Um, this Bruno actually does have a lot of application. At first I didn't like him, but coming on at 4 and stopping something from going back up is actually pretty cool. Simba Tech, just because you are singing a lot, so this Tech that 2, it is uninkable. But I actually do like this deck a lot. I played into something very close to this when I was playing, I think I was playing Lemon Lime Discard, and game 1, I got railed pretty hard with how much lore they were producing. And then game 2, I understood what I needed to keep and what I needed to strip, and it was just kind of like a slow crawl. I think if I got unlucky at any of the draws, I would have lost. So I do think this deck is really good. And I was playing Lemon Lime Discard, so Green Steel Discard might have a harder time. And if you draw better, you likely win that matchup. So I do think this deck has a lot of potential going into the future. Um, Incredible. It is actually really good. Antonio is a big piece of the deck. Number 3 is Beyond the Horizon. There's a lot of chitter chatter on this card, but I do think it is strippable. Uh, there's also Pete and there's Ursula that are super popular, so I don't like it for that reason. It is uninkable. It's high cost if you're top decking. Um, you need to open a very good line, and you need that line not to die so it can sing it. It is ultra high roll. I understand that you basically win the game if you hit it, but that is Green Steel in a nutshell. You don't want to add another uninkable condition to win the game. I think this card will be good, but once people understand that people are playing this, it won't be good anymore. Um, the pros is that it is a sing it together. It's pretty insane. Target discrimination is insane. You can pick yourself or the opponent. It could be your own draw engine. It could be as early as turn 3, and a secondary draw engine to Beast, Diablo, Rapunzel, Ariel, Doc, anything. So I do think the card is really good still, but obviously I don't know if you'd play it at 4. This list that I made does play it at 4. I actually saw variations of this list, but I did make it a long time ago, and then I started seeing it pop up, so I was kind of proud of myself. But what I don't like is that some people play 8 Singer 4s. At the end of the day, you're still a control deck. You don't want to rely on this gimmick, so you still want to play the Ariel. This is still a draw engine, and you still have Rapunzel, so you're still playing the control route. You don't want to clog up the hand with these guys. You get to Smee. This is actually really good on the mirror. In testing, you do, like, if you're on the play, if you hit Robin Hood and they hit Sydney, thinking that you can't answer it, and you mulligan for this correctly, like, you tap it, you kill it, you're ahead now, and you go for aerial, etc., etc. So, if you go for the nut hand, right, you go Sydney, Troubadour, um, Beyond the Horizon, discard their hand, Pete, they ink, they play, and then you hit the Be Forgotten. And then on that last turn, you drop a bolt, or the turn before, not the Pete turn. The Pete turn, you drop a bolt. The likelihood is that they don't have an answer for bolt, and bolt is tanky enough to where they can't really hard cast things. And if they're hard casting a Zeus, they're taking up a whole turn. Or if they're hard casting a brawl, they're losing ink. You know what I'm saying? Bolt says ink and play a card, or else you're gonna start losing the game really, really fast. And yeah, super good. I think Bolt is a must-have in this deck. He's not like the greatest card. He's enabled by the deck, and he's enabled by these cards. In any other deck, um, I don't think he's really there, right? So throwing this one out there. This one obviously is really good into green steel, but I don't like green steel. So number 2 is Heads Held High. It's strippable. It's a song, right? It's high cost if you're top decking. It doesn't net 0 in things like red blue or green blue. And it needs a lot of setup, right? You can get hit by Pete and you can hit by Ursula, but this card enables so much. And typically, you're always going Tipo and Natala, whether you be in green blue or red blue, right? So and the likelihood is that they're usually just questing, right? They're questing because they don't want to lose. They're not gonna like. Sometimes they do take time to storm and stuff, but then they're not questing and they can smack it and blah blah blah. But it's also insane target discrimination for stuff like Vanish if they go wide. Um, It sets up for Sisu. It sets up for Under the Sea. It's inkable. The shark can sing it by himself. It's just an insane card. Like, I do think that it's not a 4 of. I think it's like a 2 of. And I think in this next list, I do have it at 2 of. So this is pretty cookie cutter McDuck Manor, right? Kita's in there for the discard. Goofy's in there for the aggro. You kind of have this flex at 4. You only want to ramp. You want to ramp fast. You want to hit that far. And, it's pretty cookie cutter. And then this is just a tool. Like, it's just a 2 of tool to bump Sisu up, to always have a clear for things when they strip Be Prepared. Like, what if you had Be Prepared first, and then you're visioning into Heads Held High later, right? Like, or maybe you're singing How Far to find this out of nowhere instead of a B Prep. Why lose your board when you can just board wipe them with Sisu? So, I think the card is super good. Like, I understand they compete, right? But if they're gonna Pete, you're not gonna B Prep anyways, right? So if they Pete, you're not gonna B Prep anyways. If they don't Pete, you're going to be prep anyways. So why not have the option to keep a board state and then another character? Like this tech, at 2, you could probably put it even at 1 and Shark can just get it back. Like, it's just a good card. My number 1 does have to be Tramp though. When this card got released, I think it was literally like the 10th card to get released in the set. But it is Seasuable, but that's good. Brawlable, really bad. It does still net 0, so that's good. Musable though. That's a big thing. High cost of top decking, and it needs a whiteboard. It Dog is really good at doing that though, and typically doesn't fail at that. That's why I think this card is enabled so well. It has amazing shift targets. Um, it could be before B prep on turn 4, before Sisu. It's just absolutely insane. Insane replenishment, and it's a third draw engine to Rapunzel, to the other big tramp, and then this is number 3. Huge willpower, so steel can't really deal with it, and inkable. I don't play Dog a lot, but this is kind of what I had built up. You kind of just want to go really wide, and I know I didn't highlight this lady as well. I think she's enabled by the decks that she's in. Another card that's enabled by the decks that she's in. Um, these are cards that are just independently powerful, and I understand shift targets are shift targets, and they're enabled by that. But this card itself, um, just always needs to be respected, right? This card doesn't need to be respected because what does it matter if you're dropping 2, like if I'm steel or whatever, right? Before you clear, this card always needs to be respected. This card needs to be respected. This card needs to be respected. It needs to be respected and needs to be respected. Um, that kind of is why these are my top 5. They're cards that are independently strong and it could probably fit in any kind of deck. I was playing this big tramp in Lemon Lime as well before board wipes. If I didn't discard it fast enough and I'm expecting Sisu, like it's just really good. So those are my ratings for the top 5 and their deck lists. And so thank you for watching.